Welcome to the Gematria 101 class. We're going to see how this relates back to football. We have another issue that I always question when I'm looking at what is advertised or put out by the NFL with the Steelers having Big Ben in a cast and supposedly at the very end of the game re-injured his foot. So I always question that, and I'll go over that a little bit later. So let's look at the Gematria calculator. It's Gematria.org you can go to. So let's look at my spreadsheet, and you'll see that over here I have a calculation for January for Jewish is 8, English is 9, simple is 9. And this is where 1322 is 8, 540 is 9, and 90 is 9. So what I do is I first look at the date and time, because that's a unique identifier for the game, which I feel the NFL is using to maybe have a little guidance for their outcomes. And so if you add up 1720171630, it simplifies down to 1. But you can also look at that date and say it's January 7, 2017. And if you put numbers in the calculators, you don't get any result from it. It's only with letters. So where January is 8, that's actually, there's a 1 there, so it's actually 7 additional that you need to add, and you come up with an 8. And since 8 becomes the Jewish number, the English number then is 1 more. If we look up here at the January, English is 9, that's 1 more than 8, so let's add 1 for that, which is 9, and simple is identical to the English. And I've done this also for the other games last weekend, where you could see the date and then the time comes up with an 8, so I do 8 plus 7 is 6, and then add 1, 7, 7. And also down for Sunday's games, which you add those number 5, you add 7, you have 3, English and simple are 4. And for the later game, the date is 3, add 7 is 1, date again 3, English then is 1 more than 1 or 2. So the next thing I did is I figured, well, let's look and see what the Raiders. Oh, we got a response from the outside there. The Oakland Raiders. Now what I did is I first broke it up into the team. So if I run the Raiders in the calculator, you'll see that you get 269, which equals 8444, which is equal to 12 or 3, and 74, which is 11 or 2, which I have in here, 832. The full name then comes out to, so that you can see it, let's do Oakland Raiders. And the Oakland Raiders is 395, added up, that's 8, and you add that up, 9, and you add up for the simple is 6, which I have 896. So now what I do is I did the same thing with the Houston Texans, where I have on Texans 532. And if you want to see that, let's run that real quick. Okay, here we go. Texans 536 just happens to be the same there, but that actually ends up being a 5. And that 498 is equal to 3, and your simple 8311 or 2. So then this is the Houston Texans is 396. So I go and I put that against the date. Let's see if we have a match. Now the Raiders are matching the Jewish date when you have January 7th, 2007 at 1630. Again, that's in military time. And that matches up. But then you have a match for the Houston Texans in using the January of in the English for the full name, and then you have a match of the simple for the Raiders. Now, what I found is that a lot of times in the history, matching the Jewish is death to the team. And English match is good for the team. That's strong. And I've been looking at results of games, and that has been, I would say, pretty much you're at the 80-90% accuracy when you're looking at that. And you got to remember with football, they're dealing with people, they have injuries within the game, and there's only so much that external forces can affect a game. And that's where I think they're a little bit tied with it. But if you have that pretty good ratio of an 89% control factor over the games, it's a business with NFL, and they want to make sure that their viewership maintains high. If you notice, they were showing a slack in the beginning, and I think they really went over and started taking more control of the games. Hence, a lot of the people have noted that are the refs controlling the games, and I feel that there is some control there. I don't think it's on all games, because all games don't matter. Maybe it is, but in what I have done historically, I've seen that there's been a little bit of influence there, and these numbers seem to be a pretty good guidance for it. Now, that's the Raiders and Texans, which, okay, so there you have a match, and with the Jewish, and you say that, okay, Sherlock, this is a death to the team. So let's look at the Lions and Seahawks. The Lions and Seahawks, in their Detroit Lions full name, matched the date on their Jewish full name. Again, I saw that as death, and again, the Lions lost. You had a match of both teams on the full name on the simple for the January, and that ends up, the simple I found has minimal influence in a game with it, but it's something to look at. Think of trends. You want to look at variables within the football game. One, you have the general football knowledge, such as home field. You have weather. You have injuries. You have matchups, etc., that occur within the game, and they all have an effect. But this is just one additional way of being able to look at football and for you to be able to figure out who is going to win. Which takes us into Sunday's games with the Dolphins and Steelers. Here, there was basically no date matchup, no Jewish matchup that I saw anywhere, no English matchup, but there was a simple matchup for the Steelers with their 4 here and the 4 on the January 8th, 2017 date. Now, this is going to lead me into further discussions, and we'll have further YouTube videos on other things that I look at. Because if you look at the last game, the Giants and Packers, there are just no matches whatsoever there. You take the 3, 2, and 1 with it, and really the simples are 2, no there, English are 2s, none there, and the Jewish 1 and the date 3, there's nothing under the Jewish for those at all. So what else? And I've seen this before, so what else will I look at? Well, when we go into the other videos, I'll get into, with Gematria 102, a little bit about the refs. And you can see up here where I've kind of looked a little bit more at the refs and how they're matching up with it. But I wanted to get everyone started with an initial foray into Gematria and how it works. If you want my football analysis, you can go up to PayPal, up to and get my news up there. I'll send you my newscast if you, for the little 25 to my PayPal account, and you'll be able to get the news analysis. If you look underneath in the video, I have all that laid out for you. And as far as Big Ben, I see injuries, I see things happen, and they affect the game. If Big Ben, when he has been injured, it's a totally different team, totally different game, and that's when Pittsburgh ended up having most of their losses. So, with a minor injury, is that enough at the Kansas City game to give Kansas City the edge? And if you notice on what everyone's talking about, that is supposed to be the closest game this coming weekend. Well, take care, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.